Comics the Magazine is the powerhouse periodical you need to have. From creator interviews to insightful articles, Comics delivers the best parts of the fandom each and every issue. It has an exclamation point in its name for a reason. So what are you waiting for? Get to your local comic shop and pick up the latest issue, and check out comicsthemagazine.com for more information. Comics the Magazine is what the fans are reading. Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Stepping around social landmines and dodging depression with self-medication. I'm dying to some real.
Welcome to an all-new edition of Fanlight Zone Presents. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also the editor-chief here at FLZ. To my left, you're right at home. He's one of our featured comic editors, and you know him as the face of 607 TWS, the wrestling show. Please give a warm welcome to Rich.
That is right. And of course, we are back with another tremendous interview with some amazing creators. Cannot wait to talk about this book. So Ken, get the introduction out of the way. Let's go.
To talk about one of the best debut issues of the year is an understatement, because challenging the concept of life, death, and art is not exactly an easy task. But the creative team behind Ignition Press's new Smash series has pulled it off flawlessly with a mystery and a catch ending that you cannot miss. But knowing their track record, you know they're going to bring it, because you have the writer behind such books as Batman City of Madness, Two-Face, Event Horizon, and the upcoming Forever Home for Oni Press. And you combine them with the talents of the artist behind Mindset, In Bloom, The Infernals. Please do not sleep on that series. Go get that when you get to the comic shops, along with the Patron, Department of Truth, and the Smart Division, which is blowing up right now for Dark Horse Comics. You get them together, you have absolute magic on pen, paper, and in art behind the scenes of Ignition Press's The Patron. Please give a warm welcome to Christian Ward and John J. Pearson. Guys, what is going on?
Whew, that's
Wow.
quite the intro.
That was
Thank you so much.
You need to just follow us around and just do that all the time. That was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have said, if somebody sees me at a convention, just holler. I'll just run on stage. If I don't get kicked off, I'll do it quick and then run back in the crowd. I'm known for that.
I'm down for it.
Yeah, I just have you at my table, like just doing that constantly.
Everybody that walks up, you have to do it like over and over again. I think I'm interested in seeing that.
I work easy. Just give me water and coffee. I'm good. Nothing happened there. But this book definitely draws that attention. And I know the fans have been buzzing about it. I know everybody's been hitting us up on FLZ talking about this book. So let's just start out. How the heck did this whole story come to be?
Oh, we've got a cool story about how this happened. I mean, me and John have been pals for years now, and every year we do a UK-based comic convention called Thought Bubble, the best comic convention in the world, in my opinion. And we do it every year, and every year we hang out and we talk about, oh, it'd be great to work together. We should work together, and trying to kind of come up with the perfect project. And then about 3-4 years ago, I forget, but we were out having a curry on Saturday night, and then John basically told me a story. I'll let John tell you the story, and then it kind of started from there.
Yeah, we were talking about a friend of mine who collects my artwork, and he always jokes saying that my artwork will be his retirement fund, but only when I'm dead, because at the minute it's worthless. And he would always joke about saying that I need to hurry up and die so he can take an early retirement. And I was just telling this to Christian, and then his eyes just kind of like lit up, and like it's like that light bulb moment. It's like, oh, that's it. That's the story. And then
It was amazing.
just kind of like took that kind of an idea and turned it into this amazing series that on one hand is this bloody brutal murder mystery, on the other hand it kind of infuses our kind of approaches to art and our kind of musings on creativity and our bits of our shared experience as well.
Yeah, because I think it needs to be said really that we have a really strange kind of like parallel kind of like journey into comics. We were both kind of fine artists at some point, having kind of exhibition of fine art paintings and gallery shows. So we've both experienced that life. We've both been art educators. John primarily with kind of like 16 plus 18-year-olds at a university sort of level. Myself at kind of 11 to 16-year-olds. So anyone that picked up the cold open, which was obviously about a school teacher, I mean, that was as close to a biographical comic as I've ever read. And when I sent the script to John, he basically replied with, "That's given me PTSD," because just taking him back to the classroom. So as John says, it's obviously, as I've kind of moved into more writing alongside kind of the art, I always write for the artist that I'm working with. I always kind of keep the artist in mind. But even more than that, I could not have done this book with anyone else other than John. As far as I was concerned, this book was born from a conversation from both of us, and it's grown with both of us in mind. And even little things like I've always, all the way through the series, like I've been asking John, what was the name of an art teacher that you really like? And so like we've got like kind of like art teachers that mean things to me and art teachers that mean things to John, like as like street names and kind of like things further down the line. So it really is. It's a deeply personal book, but with lots of murder, which that's a good comic in my eyes.
Murder and murder, art, little bit of this, little bit of that, little bit of mystery. I mean, yeah, I'm on.
It's a winning combination. If anybody's picked up issue number 1, I mean, listen, the proof is right there.
Look at that. Issue number 1 appears. Before I even get to my question, it just appeared. By the way, this next question actually involves issue number 1, because obviously, if you've read number 1, then obviously you know what the book is about. But for anybody, for whatever reason, that didn't go and pick this up when this came out, can you fine gents tell us what the elevator pitch is? And by the way, I always tell people, don't get intimidated. It doesn't have to be short. You can pretend you're on the Empire State Building if you would like. But what is this book all about?
Oh, I can be succinct. I can do it. It's about Mr. Cherish, who's an art dealer, a patron of the arts, you might say, and he's devised the perfect scheme for making money. He finds artists, he builds them up, and then he kills them, making their work worth more money than before when they were alive. And then he kind of goes around kind of killing artists to kind of make money. And then the patron is what happens when he meets one artist called Matty Barnes. And let's just say plans don't exactly kind of follow through. So it's kind of what happens then, but then it goes off and, well, you'll see.
Yeah, trust me, you'll see, and nobody wants to spoil it because it is.
Yeah.
I will say, I've said this before. If you ever want to blow me away on a first issue, when you can end a first issue and I go, what the hell, and I want to instantly read issue 2, this is that book. So if you don't want to take it from me, then don't. But I'm telling you, you're going to get to the end of this and you're just going to be like, I need issue 2 now. Thankfully, if you're listening to it now, you don't have to wait long because that's September 9th. But still.
Yeah, but still, after you get to that last page, you're going to want to do an immediate reread. And then obviously go to the comic shop, make sure you have an extra copy because you don't want to lose that one because there's so much to digest with this. But then for both of you, I mean, obviously this book centers around life after death and, the celebrity status, if you will, of the deceased. Why do you think this makes for such a fascinating topic for pop culture?
I mean, there's a couple of reasons. I think people always romanticize the idea of the live fast, die young kind of image of artists, musicians, or anything like that. So I think there's always that part of it where I think people can sometimes associate true creativity with something that is gone in a glimpse from an eye and it burns fast and bright and then it's gone. So I think that's kind of an element. And I think historically speaking as well, there's always been this idea that artists are penniless while they're alive, and then their true success only comes after death. So I think that it's kind of tapping into both of those ideas, and I think the main character Matty kind of has both of those things, where it's this rock star image of an artist that is there, and they are kind of living this fast and dangerous life, and then it's coming through on the canvas in different ways. And I think there's definitely appeal to that. And I think like it's sexy. Like I think people like to, they want to see kind of this creative act as being something that's attractive and something that's alluring. and they don't see us being sweaty little gremlins in the studio or anything. And the reality of
Which
it, but
is absolutely what we are.
100%, yeah. So I think there's definitely that appeal for people.
I mean, I think the other thing that I would add to that is the book's kind of like, I'm very passionate about art. We both are, and even though it's built around a thriller, a serial killer thriller, and it's designed to entertain, it's also very much, each issue is kind of a thesis about how we feel about art and why we think art is genuinely really important and how it surrounds us, especially us as kind of comic book fans, but even just average people, it surrounds you. You walk down the supermarket aisle, it surrounds you. You go and see a film, it's there on the screen. Art is everywhere. And I think there's a little bit of cynicism in the book, because we're talking about kind of capitalism versus art, and there's the idea that via capitalism, because there is so much competition, that you have to have art can't stand on its own. Well, really it should, and you have to have a story to sell it. I mean, in the same way that when we're doing our comic books, we always have to think, what's a good hook to be able to sell this comic book? How are we going to get people engaged in us? And when we talk to people like yourselves, and we kind of, what's a good way to kind of like really kind of like make people remember this book and want to pick it up? And the story in World is very much about, why isn't it just art? It's not, because people aren't really bothered. They're not bothered about the physical art. What they want is to be part of the story, the hype, to sort of tell their friends and whatever. So there's definitely a kind of cynicism there that we're kind of attacking. But as we go through the series, as well as all the murders, it's very much going to be talking about like why art is important and how it enriches all of us.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good dichotomy there about, because there's always a business to everything.
Yep.
And then, unfortunately the greed element and the business, not from the artist standpoint, but from the person who's selling it, because there's usually that secondary market, and whether they're killing you off like Mr. Cherish, or they're just, forcing you to work harder for less, then you end up in kind of that same, boat and structure. And it's kind of just this weird world where you kind of have to, push your art towards like something instead of like what you necessarily want to make. And when you get to do both, though, it's fantastic. Speaking about the art in this book, John, obviously this deals with, painters, and the book is hand painted. So the art in it has to. So how important was it for you to make sure that the art was is that part of the story you wanted to tell, to make sure that since you're talking about painters, that's how the look of the book should feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that aligns with my interests. But I think for this especially, I wanted to convey the value of that art by it being something that is kind of real and tactile. And like I've worked digitally like for quite a few of my series. And but I come from a fine art background where I would do a lot of expressive painting, and it was all about the movement of the paint and the materials there. And I wanted to kind of come back to that a little bit with this and have it so it's something that was tangible. But more than that, I wanted to have each of the artworks that you see in the series to be their own paintings as well. So every time you see a painting in there, it's its own piece that I've painted and then scanned in and then kind of positioned where each of the canvases are. So in the first issue, all of the ones that you see in Matt's exhibition, for example, they're all their own individual artworks. The same for everything in the cold open. It's like a bunch of paintings within the paintings each time. And it's great, because I think for me as well, it's taken those ideas that Christian's got of the kind of importance of the artwork and the variation of the artwork. And for me as an artist, it's pushing me to think, how can I present this, or how can I do this that's different from what I normally work, or do something that's interesting. So it's ranging from like the hand paintings that you
celebrity
see,
paintings. Talk about celebrity
yeah, I was gonna say, so like in the cold open, there's like a celebrity, and Christian was like, oh, those kind of washed up celebrities that become painters and artists, and it's kind of like shit art, then it's like it needs to be that. And I was like, okay, cool, let me try and do that. So yeah, in the cold open, there's like the the celebrity who does like weird caricatures of like this like animal type thing with like clocks and money and just like quite vapid ideas. But it's really difficult because I've got to try and unlearn what I know and kind of make it I don't know, not me, or make it kind of have a certain flavor. There's an issue later on as well, where in the script there's a note that says like this can't even be accidentally good for one of the pieces, and I was like, which obviously made me really laugh.
So basically, what I'm hearing here is that Christian just likes to make notes so that you make art that's bad, so that way you're challenged. He understands that good art is your nature, so therefore, let me make a challenge for him. You have to do this badly.
I really love the idea that we might get John and Eisner for doing the worst art of his career.
I sincerely hope that's the case. It's so much fun. But I think that for me, there's nothing more pleasurable than challenging myself as an artist, and this series is really pushing me to do that in so many different ways. And it's simultaneously exploring what I currently do as a comic artist, but like everything that's led up to this point in my career. It's kind of this huge amalgamation where I'm simultaneously pushing myself, but then I'm trying to unlearn what I've done and reflect on it in different ways. And yeah, I'm having a blast with it. It's absolutely fantastic.
I mean, I've got to jump in there. I mean, like, there's, I talked about how this book's kind of like, a love letter to art, but it's also like my love letter to John. Do you know what I mean? Being a fan of like, not just his art, but just him as a person. I mean, anyone who knows John loves that John because he's like a great guy. And like, and it's like, I really wanted, when I was writing this script, I wanted it to be the best thing that I'd written. And I wanted it to be something that would be a real, excuse the pun, but a real blank canvas for John to. I mean, I joked earlier about him winning an Eisner for doing shit paintings within the world, but obviously we all know, we've seen the work. This is John's, like, as far as I'm concerned, I think this is the best work of his career. And that's a real honor for any artist when you're writing for them, and they bring their own game. That's amazing, and and to have, but to share that with a friend, that's even more special.
Yeah. And I mean, especially it shows on the page, like to say stunning. I don't feel I'm doing enough justice for the work that's in this series, that just, you literally are just going to have your mind blown as you're going through these pages. And I mean, some of the stuff is very horrific, but still you're sitting like, wow, that's amazing. Even though that happened, but you're just like, this is just something that it just feels different as a reader, like going through, like, it's not your average murder mystery. No. And there's just so much more depth to it, especially with that art, because it's something that hooks you right from that opening page and just doesn't let you go.
I agree with that, because like I've always said this. I mean, I love looking at art as well, but I'm like the story guy. Like I read the story, then I go back and look at the art. And during this book, I caught myself many a times just forgetting about the story. Like, oh, wait a minute, I better go back and read that. There was a bubble, wasn't there? Because I'm like I'm like looking, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like it was one of those things where like I found myself lost, and I'm one of the, like I said, I definitely do story first, and then I peruse the art, and then I go back and look at it afterwards, just because I'm just a big story guy. But yeah, this is just fantastic, just amazing work.
Yeah. And I mean, Christian, for you're no stranger to horror stories. In dealing with something that this is so grounded, in reality, like there's no real, supernatural sci-fi elements with this. Does it become more or less challenging for you to present the horror elements?
I mean, it was from the get-go, because we're both known for kind of supernatural horror. I mean, we've both done that, and I kind of really wanted to kind of weaponize that with this book, because people, in a way, were expecting that, and it was a challenge to do something that's scary within within reality, but really it's no different than any of my other books, because it all focuses on character. So even though I might have the Event Horizon books are set in literal hell, and Forever Home is set in the future, and it's all sci-fi and stuff, but everything's still characters. And so even though the parameters of the world might not be realistic in other books, or they might be realistic in the Patron, the one thing that remains always the same is the characters' choices and their motivations always have to be realistic. So I think because I tend to be a kind of character first writer, I tend to think, okay, but it's you follow the characters, and that's what hooks you onto the story. It was a challenge, but it was fun. I mean, I'm a big fan of kind of a lot of Korean thrillers, and I love it in Korean thrillers that they'll just go and kind of, you don't really know where they're going to go, and they'll take kind of left turns suddenly, and that was kind of what I was sort of seeing and wanting to achieve, a story that felt, because it doesn't feel, even though it's reality based, it doesn't feel conventional, and it's really surprising at times, and it really pushes reality to the brink, shall we say. So it's absolutely reality based. There's no kind of like supernatural, nothing like that. It's completely reality based, but it's kind of like a hyper version of reality. So it's been fun for sure.
I think as well, like with the, like off the back of that, with it being so character focused, then that for me, like allows me to really push that as well. So I mean, I've done a lot of horror, but all of my artwork is based on emotional storytelling and those extremes of emotion, which is why I love horror in the first place. But whenever some of the best horror, it's never kind of what's seen. It's about the experiences of the people facing that maybe unknown horror. It's about those characters and that realism because you can relate to it. So that's the best thing with this, because it is grounded in reality. Then I can take that and then use that in the realism elements of my artwork, but then from the emotional storytelling and the artsy bits have that more abstract. So it does play into that kind of scary horror, but without it being anything that is like too fantasy based or too unreal. And reality is scary enough. Like that's
I mean, that's the thing. Like the horror that our characters are going to face, for them, is really terrifying. So and that, you know, and Johnny's able to really sell that emotion, and you know, we you know, you really care about the characters, and so when they face, you know, Mr. Cherish and all these things that are threatening them, you know, you're going to really feel that visceral like emotion of fear.
Yeah, and as a huge horror fan, I've always said the scariest stuff is the things that can happen in real life. The supernatural stuff is fun. Don't get me wrong. I love the Friday the 13th of the world, and you know, I you know, everything like that, Terrifier, all that stuff is great. However, like when you get something that could actually like, oh, that scared me to walk into my own front door, you know, like that's what I think is the scariest things, because you can actually see somebody like Mr. Cherish existing in this world. We do have people who do similar things, which is terrible to think about, but there's, you know, it is very much a real thing. But keeping with horror, and both of you having that background in horror right now, horror is huge in comics. I've said this as a horror fan, as a comics fan. I've loved the fact that horror has made a gigantic, like I would almost say resurgence. I mean, as a whole, it is across multiple media, but in comics in particular. For both of you, why do you think that right now, especially, it's connecting with more readers, the horror genre in comics?
So, I mean, I think horror globally is having a resurgence, mainly because globally it's a bad time. And I think when things are, when people aren't in control of the world around them, they look for things that give them a sense of control, and you can experience horror in a sense of control, and you can experience those emotions of fear and confusion in a controlled way and in a safe way. And I think that's why normally when there's kind of times of global turmoil, then horror, it does have a resurgence. And I think that's definitely why. And I think it's not necessarily just horror in comics, but I think comics at the moment, again, is huge for Absolute Batman, like bringing in this whole swathe of new readers to comics, and then them going through and then wanting to read more interesting and independent comics. It feels like a great time for fresh, interesting stories. And then the horror elements, I mean, like you just look at the films that are coming out at the minute. There's like just amazing stuff all the time, because people want to have that that sense of control and sense of fear to help them make sense of things.
I would add to that, just from the writer point of view, like it's I think it's really easy. It's really easy to write horror when you're stressed and worried about things that surround you, because I mean, there's an element of therapy and kind of catharsis when you're kind of like, you're stressed about billionaires, or you're stressed about climate change, or you're stressed about kind of capitalism. And so a way of dealing with that is just to take those worries and those fears and kind of to turn them into entertainment and kind of process them that way, or at least kind of put them out into the world in the sense that you're kind of saying, am I alone? Does everyone else feel this way? And I think that's what horror is. It's there's a big horror community, and really it's about kind of feeling like you're not alone, and we're going through a scary time together.
I mean, you're just seeing it everywhere too, and especially with characters like Mr. Cherish, who is, so creepy when you see him come across the screen, or the page, I should say. But
hopefully the screen.
The screen one day, right?
I was going to say the screen.
One step ahead.
What you know that we don't.
I'm going to put the karma out there. He's going to wind up on the screen in one way or another. But how did his visuals come together? Because, I mean, he's just such a unique character.
So for the last couple of series, I cast people in the roles because I use a lot of realism. Then I'll cast people and then take reference pictures of them and then use them as a basis for characters. So with Cherish, it was like we had a kind of a rough idea of what he wanted to look like, and then from kind of Christian developing the character, I knew straight away who I had in mind, that visually kind of aligned with what I thought he should look like, but then also as a person, a real person, they have the capability to be terrifying and charismatic and are interested in the arts. And I think that's fundamentally what Cherish needs to be. He needs to be somebody that is a figure of power, but he has that ability to make you feel comfortable and terrified at the same time. And with that, I wanted to have the focus on his kind of smile, to be there, like this look that would welcome and devalue at the same time. But also, I love putting glasses on people, especially bad guys, because like it kind of obscures your eyes all the time. So there's that idea that you can't kind of see into their souls, or you can't see what their true intentions are. And it's also a lot of the time mirroring back the people that they're looking at. So there's a lot of elements to the design that kind of then came from the kind of character as well that I was basing it on.
The way I was looking at him is more like he's kind of unassuming, if you will. Like it's like usually when you think about somebody, either whether you want to say taking advantage of or charming somebody, you think of somebody with aesthetically good looks, somebody who can just be that. But for somebody, he gets you kind of with the smile, and like he's unassuming. Other than that, like if you passed him in a room, you might not know, that he is some quote unquote powerful art dealer, if you will. Like you would just be like, oh, that's just a guy here. You wouldn't really, which I guess plays to his strengths. It plays to the strength of like getting somebody in and easily to trust, because you're like, oh, this guy's not going to do anything to me. But I think that was really cool. Like that's how I looked at him. That was what made him creepy to me. Like, I'm just used to somebody,
just the panel of the first victim, and just that little smile he does, like right before it goes into what happens. No spoilers, everybody. You need to go back and look. But when you see that moment, you're like, oh, okay. Like that's like, it's so subtle, but yet it's so impactful. So.
Yeah, we didn't want him to feel like a cartoon villain. He had to feel, because a big part of it is he kind of genuinely does have a lot of passion for art. So there's this weird kind of like, oh, I kind of agree with him on this, but I don't agree with him on that. The art's good, but the murder not so much. It's a very like kind of like he walks a line, but he's absolutely a psychopath. I mean, he is. Like, he's not a good guy. But yeah, he needed to feel. He needed to feel as real as we could make him, to make him feel as scary as he could be.
Speaking of scary, and he's not a nice guy. He's a psychopath. When presenting Mr. Pearson, what he does when he gets the job done, if you will, was there any idea that you had to pull back from when you're like either writing or even when painting it? Could you or were you just like, hey, let's just top the last kill or the last evil deed, if you will?
Well, there's plenty more. There's plenty more. Coming. We've not hit the peak yet.
Oh, okay. So no.
Yeah. I think it's the opposite of holding back. I think like each issue, it's like let's just keep pushing it.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Hopefully you don't get the notes. You're like, okay, we'll just keep going till the note comes.
Yeah.
I like it. Hey, listen, as somebody who loves it when people push it to the limit, there you go. I'm all a fan of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like it just says, if the best is yet to come, I can't wait to see what happens because, like I say, issue number 1 is going to blow you away if you haven't checked it out already. And then going into something else that was involved in this series too, the cold open was actually the first Ignition Press exclusive for Whatnot, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What is your opinion on just the state of Whatnot? Is like now that's becoming a big thing for comics these days?
For me, it's just like another thing. Like I think it's a different facet of kind of like the comic industry. I mean, I'm a Wednesday warrior. I go to the shops. I don't use Whatnot. I'm not that sort of collector. But I think kind of Ignition basically saw the promise of the Patron and wanted to kind of tap into that kind of speculative market. And it was, I went on the live stream and that was fun. It felt like I was on QVC or something. But it's I mean, it is Whatnot is its own thing.
Yeah, it's still something that is like pretty alien to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like as creators, we're like just bent over just making the work, rather than
we weren't exactly like what
but from like the more I learn about it, the more I understand like the audience is like huge for that, and there's a genuine interest in the collectability and the I don't know, I think with Whatnot it's kind of that engagement as well that people get when it's like, yes, I'm gonna get this thing from this stream. And I feel like it does reinforce the elements of the community, and it does make people feel like they're part of something where they're just getting it from a stream. I think that's far better than just clicking a button and ordering it like facelessly. But like Christian, I think there is the importance also of your local comic book shop. But with something like the cold open as well, it's like none of them were ever really intended for comic book shops. They were just intended for promotion. So yeah, it's I think it's a positive thing that I am still quite clueless on.
Yeah, no, I have to say I'm there with you, but like just watching over the past, I would say almost a year now, you're seeing more creators going there, and you're seeing more of the fans kind of shifting a little bit for more exclusives over there. Not to take away from obviously going to the shops on Wednesdays to go get the books, but it's just something that seems like more and more we're seeing fans kind of gravitate towards a little bit, and it's kind of a fascinating thing as it's evolving, because it reminds me in a weird parallel to like when Kickstarter was really coming into a factor, and now it's so much of the norm of the business that just to see like where this is all going in like this digital age, I just think is very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the business of Whatnot, but I'm much like Christian. I'm the Wednesday go to the shop. I enjoy that time. I've even said, like I said, I've said a million times, doing what we do in reviewing books, most of the time it comes in PDF form, and I still go buy the books when they come out because I like the page turn, and you can never replicate that. You know what I mean? I like I said, Neon Ichiban gets close to the page turn, replication, but like I like that beat. I like that there's an art form where if you do it right, the page turns and you get that big surprise. And there's something about having the book that makes the difference to me. So I've always, and I'm a big collector, as you know. So it's weird that I'm not more into Whatnot, because I'm one of those people who's like, my wife is like, oh, you have this and it's worth this. And I'm like, yeah, and it'll just sit on my shelf where it belongs. Like we talked about Absolute Batman a minute ago. I have Absolute Batman #1. It's on my shelf. Why would I ever get rid of it? I love, that's one of those books. But speaking of, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, like something I did do at San Diego was, and it wasn't for the Patron, it was for the Smart Division actually. In advance of it coming out, I did a Whatnot stream, and I was just doing like little remarks on stuff, and people were getting them through Whatnot, and I thought that was good because you wouldn't be able to get that unless you came to a convention and unless you came to see me. So stuff like that, I think.
I was gonna say that would sell me on doing something for Whatnot like that. That's kind of cool. Like, did you get that moment where you might not be able to make it to a San Diego or a New York or even a smaller convention? It's especially like here in the States, it's such a massive country that, like, some people do not live near any kind of real convention where they ever get to, like, go and meet their heroes, if you will, the people they love reading, and so to get that interaction, I think that's amazing. Like, I can get behind that. It's just like I said, and I'm all for people marketing and making money however they want, but it's at the same time, I'm still going to go to the shop every Wednesday and grab my book and talk to people.
Yeah, you can't get away from the community aspect, and then the community always starts at the comic shops. There's no question.
Yeah.
Speaking of community in the comic shops, we kind of touched on it a little bit when we talked about the horror question, but I want to go as a whole. Both of you do a lot of indie comics. So it's, right now we talked about it a little bit with horror, but indie comics as a whole has been booming as well. Once again, I know earlier, John, you mentioned, Absolute Batman and, people going to the stores and that leading them down the rabbit hole of other things. And I mean, that's pretty much the answer that everybody gives about like how people are coming to indie comics. But as being creators in indie comics, where you get to do some really cool stuff like the Patron, how is the boom working for you? Is this like just like reinvigorating of like all of the things that you can do and that there's endless possibilities, or what's your thoughts on it?
I mean, I think, create your own books have always, I approach all my books the same. Like, it's always, I don't do any book, whether it be DC or the license, or, it's always like, how can I bring myself into the story? How can I write the best script? How can I make the best comic? You don't have a tier system in your head, like, well, this is create your own, so I'll put most of the effort in. But I think kind of create your own, because you can do anything, and because it can be so intensely personal without kind of like using a character as a mouthpiece. It can be your character. I think it is an exciting it's very exciting to do indie comics, and I think we are in a golden age of comics, genuinely, without any cynicism at all. I think there's so many good comics, but obviously the flip side of that, it's great for comic retailers, who are the lifeblood of the industry as far as I'm concerned, and it's great for readers. But also, I think we have to appreciate that, globally, it's difficult at the moment. People don't have the disposable income that they might have had even 5 years ago, especially 7 years ago before the pandemic. And so at least what I'm finding is that, because there are so many good indie comics, you've got retailers are spoilt for choice. They've only got so much space on their shelves. Readers are spoilt for choice. They've only got so much money or attention to be able to kind of like read the books that they want to read. So it's a strange time, because in one respect it is that golden age, and it's amazing and it's exciting, and you can do comics that are, the Patron was greenlit like that. Forever Home was greenlit like that. I'm sure Smart Division was greenlit like that. You can really get an exciting book over the line really easily at the moment. Not easily, but it's easier to get it over the line. But it's kind of harder to sell it because it's hard to. It's not competition, but it is in a way. There's people can pick up 10 different books a week and they're all great. It's not like, there's like 4 good books. There's so many good books. So, in that regard, it's quite difficult at the moment to get a hold and really establish, what you want to do. And we're quite fortunate that we're well-known kind of creators. And because of that, it comes with a pedigree. People know that they're going to be picking up a quality book. But even with our pedigree, we have to work a lot harder at the moment to kind of really shout from the roof, we've got this book, it's great, it's worth your attention. So yeah, it's an interesting time, and it's one that I'm both happy about and I don't know if I would say I'm anxious about it, but it's not easy. There's a lot of effort involved beyond making a comic to sell a comic.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's it makes me so thankful to anybody that ever picks up our work or like anything that ever works on, because they are choosing to spend quite often the little money they have on something that is really expensive. Comic books aren't cheap. So for people to kind of sometimes take a risk on that, because they might know who we are, but they might be like, well, the Patron, what's that about? I don't know. It's not like Batman or something that comes with expectations and a history that they're aware of. It's still a leap of faith for a reader to pick up the first issue of a series. And when there is so many other amazing series dropping all the time in this golden age that we're in, it does make it it makes me very thankful for people who do take the risk and do it, because it's not easy. People have more important things to buy than comics. Not that comics aren't an essential, they are, but food is probably more essential, I guess, and bills. But
I mean, I've made those rough choices before. I don't know. Comics went out a little bit too much.
I'm sure we all have.
Wife, especially if you ask my wife, she'd tell you that they went out a little bit too much. Because, like, but I agree with that though. As somebody who is a consumer, as somebody who's buys stuff, like you have to make those decisions. Like I've had to break it down now. Like there's certain series that I follow and that I get issue by issue every Wednesday, and then there's other ones that I'm like, okay, I'm going to just buy the trade. Yeah. And I mean, so the trade business, and now I understand why the trade business has gotten a lot bigger too, because that isn't, thankfully that's an option. There is an option where you can buy the trade, you get everything in one shot, and you kind of go from there. And like I said, unfortunately, I'm spoiled in a bit because I get to read a little bit more than the average, reader. So like in that case, I get to literally pick and choose a little better, but I understand it because I have a budget too, because, we all, it's, as you said, there's an uncertain economic times. You can't just go out and all willy-nilly. Because I mean, if I could just buy every book that I wanted to, let's be honest, I'd pay over $100 a week to my pull list.
Easily.
Easily. And trust me, I support my my LCS greatly. So if Dave is listening, thanks.
I think that's why, for me as well, the idea of rereadability for comics is so important. So something that I'm consciously thinking about when I make art. So with the Patron, I mean, you said at the start as well, when you got to the end of it, you wanted to go back and read it straight away. And great, because that's kind of what I want. So it's like the little pieces that we've kind of put in and the effort that goes in to make you want to go back and experience it again. That's something that again is there. So it's not just like, oh, I read it and then it's gone, I forgot about it. It's something that you should kind of experience again and again, and it should be something that stays with you. I think that's hopefully what we've achieved with the Patron.
Oh, easily you've achieved that. No, I mean, that's just one that when you get to that last page, you immediately want to go back and reread it because it's just such a great hook. No spoilers, everybody. But it's just one of those hooks that it gets you and you're like, wait, what just happened? But you want to go back. It's not like you have to go back. And that's just something, with a great story that you want to go. Like that's just such a key factor. And with the characters that you have there involved and where it's going to go, it's really going to have some fans talking because it just has such a different feel than what's out in the stores right now. And that's just, a testament to what you've both have done with the series. So, obviously we got a monster hit on your hands, but I want to throw a couple fun questions at you before we go. So we live in a day and age of a lot of crossovers. If you could throw any legality out the window, if you could cross over Mr. Cherish with any other character in comic pop culture,
I know.
Who do you want to go with and why?
Oh, you go first then. I'm not.
Samantha. It's got to be Samantha. Samantha from Beneath the Trees.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's amazing.
That's a really good one.
And not even explain the animals and the humans. They're just don't explain it. Just be like, they exist in the same world.
Would they be kind of faced off against each other?
I think Samantha, I could see her having a little dabble in the art world.
I can see that.
I could see it, some beautiful watercolors, perhaps. Patrick, you listening, Patrick?
Yeah,
Come on.
man, yeah.
Let's call
Get Patrick on the
IDW.
phone. That's like,
Yeah,
We
it's a man
definitely
bun,
need to.
for sure.
Yeah,
now I want to see
yeah.
that.
No, I really want to
Yeah,
see
like I said, there is don't even explain it. Just let it
Yeah.
happen. Just there's no explanation for why we have a bear and a human in the same thing. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Trust me, nobody will care. Pure entertainment. John, do you have one?
not necessarily a character, but maybe if you take Cherish and you put him in Uzumaki, so it's just kind of Cherish experiencing these spirals everywhere and kind of trying to find a way to deal with that, and also kind of the artistic merit of that. That's kind of the first thing that comes to my mind.
I'm going to be honest. The first thing that came to my mind is to cross it over with Dexter, because then you have Dexter hunting the serial killer.
Yeah, I mean that's not
kind of
away from beneath the trees. It's like-
That's the easy lob. But it's still when there's the little crossover event.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was thinking Archie because everybody's going with
Everybody's
Archie
going
these
with
days.
Archie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cherish and Riverdale.
Everybody goes to crossover with Archie. All right. So once again, the horror question, because I'm the horror guy. What is your favorite horror story, horror movie?
Hereditary, yeah. We it's a funny story. You can tell it if you want, like how you got that hat, because I got one as well.
Yeah, we got it from a fan at San Diego. He because this is my comfort watch. I will always, like, if I'm feeling a bit blue, or I
Yeah.
just need to watch something really easy and just nice. And like my wife Catherine, she's a big horror fan. She loves horror. You know, it's one thing that we share. But for her, it's like done and one. Like, she loved it. She thought it was great. I never want to see it again. But for me, I'm like, stick it on. I feel like a cheer up. And I'm sitting there giggling as like Gabriel Burns, like catching fire. I'm like, and then I'll.
Yeah. So, and this was pretty much exactly how Christian told it to this guy who came up to our signing at San Diego, and I had a Hereditary T-shirt on, and he was just talking about it, and then Christian was like, "Oh, it's a feel-good film."
Yeah.
So he went out and he came back and he got us both Hereditary hats. Yeah, which is amazing.
That might be the first time I've ever heard of Hereditary being called a feel-good film, but that's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't argue that, and you also can't argue the Patron is going to be on that list by far and away. If you're looking for amazing art, a phenomenal story, a hook that's going to have you wanting more, this is the book you need to get multiple copies of. Make sure your friends are getting it at the shops too. This is something that we're not overselling, folks. You pick this up, it's an experience, and it's one that stands out from everything else at the shelf as how we look at horror, life, art. There's so much going on with this. I want to see more of this. I want to see a lot of this. I want to see this on the big screen. So I want to put this out there in the world. We need to go support this. Christian and John, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. We definitely have to talk to you when it's all said and done.
Thank you so much for thank you for bookending it with like
we'll
another amazing little...
We'll send you the 10%.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That is what we're here for. So on behalf of Rich and myself, thank you again for checking out another edition of Fanlight Zone Presents. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.